I'm thrilled to introduce today's presenters, a team that has developed a truly unique and individualized approach to home patient retention. What makes their work stand out is the full team collaboration behind it. Every member plays a vital role in making this approach successful. So we're so excited to have the entire team here today to share their insights and walk us through their process. Please join me in welcoming Cherie and her team, and I'll let Cherie introduce her team.
Hello, everybody. Nice to see everybody. All right, Yvonne, we can go to the next slide. Um, just wanted to share a bit about our agenda here to start off. We'll meet the team, talk about how we came to be, some strategies that we've used to influence our region and others, how this work. We'll go through an example retention call, share some insights and lessons learned, and then go through some spin-off projects. And hopefully we'll get some questions from you guys and we'll be able to answer those. Okay, we can move to the next slide. All right, so this is our team. We're all on camera here, all excited to talk about retention. We do it all of the time. I am Cherie. I've spent 19 years in dialysis, 16 of which have been in the home dialysis sector. I love promoting creativity, change agency, and transformational leadership to inspire teams. We have Crystal Rather. Say hi, Crystal. She's a home charge nurse. She's run through all facets of home over the past 21 years. She's worked as an in-center nurse, home manager. She's passionate about breaking down barriers in home. We have Gretchen Kosgarden. Say hi, Gretchen. She's our social worker, 13 years in dialysis, passionate about increasing access to home dialysis, transplant, and peer mentorship. Mick Modeska is on with us. Hello, Mick. 17 years in dialysis. He specializes in thoughtful installs, which considers the patient's home space. And he is our home technical champion for our region. Rosie LeBeau is on. She is a virtual clinical consultant. Say hi, Rosie, to everybody. She has 23 years in dialysis, spent as an in-center preceptor, a home therapy preceptor, a home therapy FA, and her passion lies in empowering patients to choose their best modality. Shauna Olmstead is on. She's our home nurse, our home manager. She's a nurse. She's had 15 years in dialysis. She was a care partner to her father on HHD, and she's passionate about decreasing the burden of therapy for our home patients and their care partners. Say hi, Shauna. Renata is on. She's an in-center manager, a nurse, 12 years in dialysis, and she specializes or is passionate about empowering our nurses, patients, caregivers, and she brings a solution-focused mindset to clinical practice through evidence-based practice. Hi, Renata. And then last but not least, Barbara Edgar. She's a manager of nutrition services, 31 years in dialysis, passionate about quality and helping patients manage the complexities of the renal diet. And recently she had a poster at NKF. Can the use of protein pump inhibitors be the cause of an elevated phosphorus? Say hello, Barb. So this is our team. We did some math earlier today. That is not our strong suit. And we calculated that we have about 151 years of experience amongst the 8 of us. If you want to calculate that all up on your own, go ahead and do that. All right, so that's our team. We're happy to be here. We can move to the next slide. All right, so I just want to talk a little bit about how we came to be. We sort of get this question a lot when we talk to different teams. Why did you guys do this? So we always want to start with the why. So in our New England region, we were losing patients almost as quickly as we were training them, sort of like an upside down funnel. So I was encouraged by senior leadership to create a solution which could solve for home patient attrition. So I began this sort of a grassroots mission to use my knowledge of home to aid in retention. As you all may know, grassroots campaigns usually entail using the people within a community as a basis for a social movement. So this is kind of a social movement for us. So I first began my mission on my own and then very quickly found that I needed help. So I reached out to Crystal and we used our knowledge and expertise to connect with the teams out in our region. Um, I understood that to be effective, we needed to be more intentional and purposeful in our focus on retention strategies. We needed to know who, what, when, and why patients were dropping. We needed to be proactive. In my role, then I was a regional team lead. I knew everybody. I made it my business to know everybody. I was in everybody's business. So through that experience, I knew everybody's passion. So I sourced for the individuals who I knew who had a passion for home and a love of home. I knew I wanted experts in home to build this team, but more importantly, I wanted a team built out of the box thinkers, and I didn't want this to feel like work or a burden. So so you guys know we all have our own separate jobs. I'm a director of operations. These guys are in-center managers or home managers. We do what we do outside of our normal day-to-day. We don't get paid anything extra either. um, and then lastly, it's the interdisciplinary team. The purpose of an IDT is to work collaboratively towards a common goal to improve patient outcomes. So that's what we built, a team comprised of thoughtful and reflective individuals. We are representative, we are equitable and inclusive, and ultimately, this is how we decided we want to serve our home patients and our home teams. And again, this is the team you have before you today. All right, Yvonne, we can move to the next slide. Okay, so some strategies we use to influence. So as you guys know, we had a long road ahead of us. We had to influence nurses. So nurses are some of the most, I guess, strong-minded individuals I've come across. So, you know, if you've worked in home at any time, any kind of time, then I know that I'm going to have to work extra hard to get you to believe me and sort of influence you to sort of change your mindset and your strategies. So once we had our team firmly in place, we really sort of began to focus on our goals. We knew we wanted to improve patient retention, but to do that, we had to influence those teams and have them understand that they wanted to improve home patient retention. So it wasn't necessarily about what we wanted to do. We wanted to make them understand that's what they wanted to do. So we decided we needed a frequent cadence as a team to determine the best strategies to influence the home team. So during one of our first meetings, we knew we didn't want a set call on the books. We knew we'd have low participation, and attempting to set a call on the books that could work for 70 plus programs just didn't seem like we could do that. So we decided we wanted this to be led by the local teams. So meaning the local teams will determine they are encountering an issue with keeping a patient home. Perhaps they hit a wall during training and they didn't know how to move forward. Perhaps they were running into a non-adherence issue with a patient already trained, a care partner issue, patients not meeting adequacy, or maybe even they had a challenging physician and they didn't know how to overcome that challenge. So we set about ensuring teams would reach out to us whenever they decided they had an issue. So they had some control there. So from there, we wanted a standardized approach. So we created a Microsoft form. And by the way, this took us several attempts of like, how do we standardize this? What platform can we use to standardize something for the teams? So we created a Microsoft form, which asks for who's requesting the call, the patient's initials, the MRN, and a synopsis of the issue. We didn't want the form to be burdensome. So typically it takes less than a minute to complete because we wanted buy-in from the staff and we didn't want a lot of homework for the staff. So sometimes we'll get request forms and it'll be like, my boss made me do this. that's why I'm reaching out to you, like that brief. And sometimes we'll get a synopsis that's a thesaurus. Mick will go through that here in a little bit. Secondly, we wanted ease of access. So we created the form. How did the teams get to the form? So this was a key piece. If you've worked in home therapies, you know how much fragmentation there could be just within the systems. There's a system for this. There's a dashboard for that. There's multiple different sign-ins to complete just one task. So therefore, we wanted to make sure our teams reach out to us, if our teams reach out to us, that it would be easily accessible. Our third bullet here, how do we influence people? How do we let them know that we're here and we're a resource for them? We wanted people to reach out to us, so essentially we spammed them. If there was a meeting, we were there. If there was a call, we were there. We had a region-wide meeting in 2024, a lot of different presenters, a lot of different booths, just something that we created within our region. So we set up a booth and we handed out infographics. We handed out QR code stickers, which we created. We had little giveaways. We wanted people to know what our brand was. We connected with all of the home managers across the region, all of the operators throughout the region. We joined calls, we joined staff meetings, and we began sending out monthly email reminders about our team, who our team was, and then what we could offer to them. So we also included in that email each area's drop data to show the need for change. The other thing that we decided is time is of the essence when retention is a topic of conversation. We knew that in order to have a greater impact, we had to schedule the calls relatively quickly. Otherwise, the patients would go back to in-center without a discussion. So we had to offer proactive solutions, proactive phone calls to prevent this. So we offered a 24 to 48 hour turnaround time. So once the staff would reach out to us, we'd get a call on the books with their local team within 24 to 48 hours. And we didn't do the same day because we wanted to do a little bit of research or prep work. I think we'll talk about that later on. But this allowed us to research the patient based on the contents of the form. And it allowed us to meet as a team and come to the call with some solutions already in mind. Crystal is our mad scientist and Shauna too. So they go and do all of this sort of research in the background before we get on that call. So next slide, Mick will give you a snapshot of how this works. I'll turn it over to you, Mick.
Thanks, Sheree. Yeah, appreciate that. I'll walk you through how this works, right? So this will give you sort of, I guess, a firsthand view on how we go from request to a call with the retention team. So we had a few specific goals with this process. We really wanted it to be efficient and repeatable for our requesters. We wanted to be able to pull some data, and we wanted it to be accessible from different sources. So each member of the retention team, we do one of two things. We either put a link in our email signature lines that links exactly to our form, or the next thing that we did that was really neat is we created a QR code. So that QR code can, as you see in Sheree's email signature there, it can live either in our email signatures, or what we did is we actually went out and we printed these out on stickers. Those stickers can be attached to our staff's laptops, notebooks, cell phones. We were able to print it out on really nice pieces of paper that we have hanging up in all of our nurses' stations. But once that QR code is scanned or the link is clicked, the form is presented to the staff. What we did too is we made that form able to be completed on either a laptop or mobile device. Next slide. So anyone can request a call with us, social workers, dietitians, nurses, PCTs. So that, if you want to blow that up, that's our actual form right there. So we will change the aesthetics of the form, I guess, so nobody gets bored, but we never change the content. As Sheree mentioned, that form, it's incredibly simple. It takes less than 2 minutes to fill out, and that was by design. We didn't want our staff to have to fill out 10 or 15 questions just to get to a call to set up. But what we do ask, we ask the name of the person reaching out, the area they're from, And the reason we ask that specific area is we're able to collect that data and investigate where we get the most calls from, as well as who we get the most calls from personally. And then what we can do is we can actually take that data and we can reach back out into our data and we can correlate it. And we can see which areas are reaching out the most, and we can actually see that's where we're seeing the best retention. So the areas that are reaching out most to us, we're seeing the best retention rates as well. Next slide. So once the requester hits submit on the form, all members of the retention team, we receive a notification in our emails letting us know we've received a request for the call. At that point, we know time is of the essence, as Sheree mentioned, and we've got to act quickly to get that call on the books to prevent that patient from dropping back to in-center. So there's 8 of us on the team, but what we do is we only have 2 of us do the scheduling just to kind of avoid that chaos. So to date, we've had over 180 requests since we started keeping track. And this doesn't include all the calls that we've done either 2 parts on or 3 parts or even more than that. So 180 unique calls. Next slide. And so lastly, when we receive the request, that's when that think tank begins. We'll begin prepping for the call based on the synopsis offered. We'll use the patient's initials and MRN, and we'll start researching the patient's prescription if needed, but we'll also begin sourcing for community resources or researching our policies and procedures. We'll even reach back out to say some of the local team if we need any more information. But all the while, what we do is we do have a group chat, so we'll be talking about the different options we can bring up on the call so that we're most prepared and we can be efficient. So that's the process from setting up a call all the way to receiving the call and presenting the call. And I'm going to toss it over to Shauna just to kind of walk through an example of one of the calls we've had. Thank you.
Thank you, Mick. I will add that I am not allowed to schedule the calls because I inevitably mess it up every time. So this retention call that I'm going to talk about was our 131st call that was scheduled. And stable housing or lack thereof is something that we're starting to see a lot of retention calls based around. I think anybody who's worked with home, the first thing that comes to mind is that you have to have a home to do your dialysis in if you're going to be in a home modality. This is not the first call that we've had about lack of stable housing, but this call did come with additional concerns in that the patient who was training was raising 6 children as a single dad. He came from an in-center unit. His sending social worker had no idea that he was struggling with homelessness. And when we tried to schedule the patient's, when the team tried to schedule the patient's home visit, he had a lot of hesitations. And so when we talked it out and by working with the local
Shauna's frozen. Wonder if she turned her video off.
Well, that was interesting. Sorry for that. Can everyone hear me now?
Yep. Thank
Yeah.
you.
You're good.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. I'm going to backtrack a tiny bit because I'm not actually sure where. I just noticed I looked up and all of a sudden my phone was black. So this patient came from an in-center unit. He was struggling with homelessness. However, the social worker that was at that in-center unit had no idea. So when the local team went to schedule the home visit, he had a lot of hesitations. He expressed that, you know, he actually was living in a homeless shelter with his kids. And by working with the local social worker, we were able to establish that part of his concern was, you know, he's worried about losing his kids, not just about where he's going to do his dialysis. So a lot of psychosocial needs there, separate from the housing, right? Once the team established a home visit, they brought back to us, you know, they felt like there wasn't enough space for the equipment, and that not just lack of space, but delivery was going to be an issue because there was no off-street parking. and no secure area to leave supply deliveries. So the local team brought that information to us, and we were able to put together ideas from, technical on how or where the equipment could be installed, and then from the social worker on how to identify what does this patient have already in place for existing supports. And then we also worked with the local social worker to facilitate communications between this patient's housing and us, so we could kind of work things out. Once we had these ideas put out to the team, what they were able to work out was that the install was fine. Yes, it was crowded, but we got it in there. We got the job done. They worked out that the patient could actually have the supplies delivered to his mom's house. She lived local to him, and then he would bring the supplies as needed each, weekly or daily. I'm not sure how often they worked out that he was doing it, but would bring it back to the shelter that he was in. And that was what it took for the team to get that patient home. We did circle back to that team and that patient to check in on how he's doing. He is still doing dialysis at home. He has found housing, so he and his kids are all in an actual apartment. They're doing really well. He is a couple of months out from being active with transplant. And when asked about how doing dialysis at home has made a difference for him, he said that home dialysis has made his life more livable. So one example of how thinking outside of the box really made a difference in this patient's life. And I think I'm kicking it back over to you, Cherie.
Thank you, Shauna. I think it's hard to follow up from that. Perhaps we should have saved that one for last, but and that was in April. So here we are in October, and he's still successfully on home. So thank you for sharing. We love getting these calls. We love connecting with the teams, but more importantly, we love seeing the patient successful. With that, I'm going to kick it over to Gretchen to talk through some of the insights that we learned through establishing this process in our region. Go ahead, Gretchen.
Thank you. Yvonne, can you advance the slide? Thanks. So we do a lot of reflecting on the work we do. We get a lot of calls. We try to figure out ways that we can be better and improve our process and come up with different solutions and engage teams. So one of the things that we've really learned is that, we have to consider the profile of the clinic and what resources they have, what staffing challenges they're having. We want to ensure that we're not overburdening them. If our hope is to increase access, we may see more challenging psychosocial issues. And so working with staff to really try to overcome biases around who's a good home candidate is something else that we've found challenging. And then also engaging staff who may already have made the choice of in-center. We do receive quite a few calls in which, the staff person will say, we already have an in-center chair scheduled. And so it can be tough if you're coming into a retention call with the mindset that we already have an in-center chair scheduled. Also, just I would say engaging staff in general. There are certainly some teams that reach out more than others, and so we're always looking for ways to engage the home therapy teams that don't typically reach out to us. So we allow teams to think creatively to retain their patients. We try to create an environment of thinking partners where we can just throw things against the wall and see what sticks, and help guide the teams to come up with creative solutions around scheduling or installations, different prescriptions, accessing resources that maybe they didn't think about. And then hopefully this process will facilitate the transfer of knowledge and experience. So we really try to create a supportive environment as much as we're able to, and engage the staff. We have been able to have a positive impact by offering support to home staff. And, you know, a lot of the suggestions that we offer, we hope that, you know, they'll use in future scenarios to retain their patients. And then also sometimes we'll go over policies or just kind of review things that the team might not know about. And so again, that can be used for future retention. And then we collect data on who reaches out, as Mick mentioned. Shari's our data queen, and she likes to look at who's reaching out and how we can kind of connect that to different benchmarks. And then we meet as a team monthly to discuss what's working, what's not working, how we can improve our process, refine our practices, and we try to get feedback as much as possible to help us along the way. So Shari, back to you.
Thank you, Gretchen. A lot of insights. Like I said, people are reaching out to us, but we are learning from the teams too. Like that 151 years doesn't mean that we know everything. So we're surprised all of the time. So thank you, Gretchen. We can move on to the next slide, Yvonne. Thank you. This is sort of exciting for us. We've had a lot of spin-off projects because of the retention team and what we've created as a retention team. So I just wanted to talk about that for a little bit. Recently, we've had 2 abstracts at the NKF Spring Clinicals meeting in 2025. So we will attach those into the chat. And Mick, I think you're going to do that. I thought you guys would be able to click on that and go right to it, but if not, we'll just drop it in the chat. So it'll talk about the feelings of the staff reaching out to us. Somebody mentioned it earlier. People aren't necessarily pleased all of the time to reach out to the retention team. They're like, what do they know? I've been doing it. I've done everything already. So we go through some of those things in those abstracts. And then one of them is more data driven, looking at demographics and things like that. They're really interesting. From those abstracts, we are working on a larger research white paper based upon those abstracts. So that's really exciting. We're working with a really involved research team. We were lucky enough to run into them last year, and they've been amazing. We have also had people attempting to replicate our calls within our organization. That's exciting. You know, if you're copied, it seems like you're doing something right, as Barb says all the time. And then we recently had a meeting to discuss standardizing this across our organization. The medical office in our organization knows of our project. They've approved of us. They've approved of our abstracts, and they approve of a larger research project. So that, again, is really exciting. We've had meetings with the Vice President of Home Therapies. We've collaborated with research teams, and we've collaborated with our physician home champion within our region. So I just wanted to show off a little bit of what we've done there. All right, we can go into the next slide. Right there, FAQs. So frequently we get questions, as I mentioned on the previous slide. When we meet with these teams, they often ask us these questions. So I thought I'd pitch it to each member of the team to see how they would answer these questions, and just get your wheels turning a little bit. So Crystal, I'll start with you. What has been the most rewarding aspect of offering ourselves to the teams?
As Teresa, thank you. So for me, I was an in-center nurse for 10 years before I got into home. And then when I got into home, there wasn't very many of us home people. Home wasn't cool back then. and I had a very hard time getting my resources. So I had to take it upon myself to read articles, go to AREP, learn, whatever I had to learn, whatever problem I had. And I did have the largest home program in New England as a home nurse. I had 36 patients back in like 2014, which was unheard of. So I got to see a lot of things. So as I moved up and Cherie asked, if I want to join this, I was like, of course I do, because, as we have all these new programs, we have all these new nurses that I don't want to see have to go through the trouble I went through. I want to share my knowledge with them. Cherie's an expert at HHD. Gretchen's an expert at social work and mix, excellent in biomed. We have our whole team that's fabulous. So, one of the best resources I can say is, our region has a standardized best practice with the resources. And then policy interpretation and guidance. And also, I like seeing the patient be successful, and I also like seeing the nurses be successful. So,
Thank you, Crystal. Rosie, what has been the most valuable lesson for you in working with the different teams?
Hi, Cherie.
Hi there.
So I would say the most significant lesson I've learned from collaborating with many different teams is the vital role that communication plays in fostering teamwork. I've noticed that many nurses enter our retention calls with their guards up, often feeling defensive or under attack. This defense mechanism can limit their ability to think creatively and find solutions for their patients. However, I've also witnessed positive changes when we adjust our communication approach. Many of those same nurses later reach out with new perspectives and innovative ideas for patient care. I love when, there's been times where you can hear the excitement when they discuss how suggestions we've made has made a difference, which often leads to their own creative solutions. This just has highlighted the importance of recognizing and adapting to different communication styles within the teams.
Rosie, a very good point. That is a significant lesson we learned. We didn't want people to think of us as the meanies. We didn't want this to be viewed as punitive. We even had people sort of reaching out to us because they thought it was policy. So we wanted to be like, listen, this is optional. And we had to temper our approach. We couldn't go in there with guns blazing saying, do these 27 things, and you're one nurse and we're asking you to do this. So we had to learn and adjust and adapt based on the profiles of the clinics and the nurses and things like that. So there's nothing better than getting on the call and having them say, hey, thank you for being there for us. Or you can, as Rosie mentioned, you can tell they're excited. You can tell that they're grateful for having someone else acknowledge their hard work and dedication. Renata, what is something that has come up on a call that surprised you, but you felt reshaped the way in which we operate?
Hi, thank you. It's surprising to me how often nursing biases still surface in conversations. We realized it's not about presenting solutions, it's about uncovering the reason behind patient choices and ensuring those reasons guide the patient's plan of care. So we adjusted, and by centering conversations on the patient's why, we move closer to truly patient-centered care, and we are able to help dismantle biases that can unintentionally limit opportunities for patients. Instead of defaulting to preconceived notions about what's best, we're able to align with the patient's priorities, goals, and values. So I would say all in all, this approach it strengthens trust, and it encourages healthcare providers, care partners to dig deeper into the motivations and barriers, creating space for a more meaningful and collaborative decision-making for the patient.
Awesome, Renata. Absolutely awesome. Sometimes we have to get out of the way, for sure. Barb, what do you find to be the most challenging aspect of providing this resource to the teams?
Wow, where do I begin, Cherie? So thanks for the question. I'm going to focus on two challenges that I feel are deterrents to our purpose. Some home therapy programs have that preconceived notion that we're going to exert pressure on them to retain the patient, regardless of the patient's circumstance. And we realize that there are instances when it is in the best interest of the patient to transition from home therapies to in-center. And we just want all of the home therapy programs to remember that we always have our patients as our North Star. Another challenge that I feel is that there's less engagement from certain areas within the New England region. We tend to see a lot of the retention calls coming from, the requests coming from certain areas. And the areas that are less familiar with our team approach and the knowledge that we have regarding home therapies don't reach out as much. Each member of our retention team is a subject expert. And this allows us the opportunity to assess the dialysis challenges from not only the nursing perspective, but as well as the psychosocial, the nutrition, and as well as, housing setup issues. So we have that whole package.
Awesome. Barb, I think it's the fear of the unknown for those teams who don't reach out to us frequently. They sort of are 2 years, I guess, behind, whereas the people who reach out to us frequently, they know our approach for sure. And Mick, what role does the technical team play in the retention of home patients?
Probably the best question asked today, Cherie Holcomb. But we're definitely overlooked, right? But I'm a huge believer that technical or biomed, that we just have this massive role to play in setting up our patients for success, as well as aiding in patient retention, obviously specific to HHD. But in my area, we've done a whole bunch of new things. We've introduced expanded roles for our biomeds. We have biomeds that will walk in and talk to our patients during their training. So we let them know what we'll be doing in their homes. Ahead of time, we make sure that they know what type of electrical consumption that they'll be seeing, what type of water consumption that they'll be seeing. We'll provide dialysis chair training, so we'll get them in the chair that they're going to use at home, and we'll make sure that they're comfortable in it. We've offered support with rearranging furniture to make sure that their room is set up in the most efficient way possible. Creative solutions for just even managing their supplies. But our biggest improvement really has been how we do installations in our patient homes. So we do everything we can at this point to kind of reduce that dialysis footprint. So we've spent a lot of time in that home. We make sure our tubing is hidden. We don't want any trip hazards. We want to make sure the equipment is located in the best spot for our patient. It's for long term too. We want to make sure once we get in there that we're doing things accurately. We'll also revisit after a month to make sure that they're comfortable still with the way that thing is set up. And if we can make a patient's bedroom still feel like a bedroom and not like a dialysis treatment room, I guess that's the goal. So we give them back their space, reduce that visibility, and make things as efficient as possible. But we really want to set our patients up for that success long term. So that's what we're doing in technical right now to really benefit our patients.
Awesome, Mick. I remember a retention call we had maybe 6 months ago. A younger guy who didn't want to date because he felt like the equipment was taking up space in his home. So we sent out Mick Modeska to take a look at that patient's home space and see what we could do to, again, decrease the footprint of the equipment in his home so he could freely date. But I think you guys please focus on technical in your teams and what we can do to improve, allow the patient's home to still remain their home. I think about me, if I were a patient, I would go bananas if I couldn't close a cabinet door because of tubing. So it's what may seem small to us is really a huge thing for our patients. All right, I am going to go to the next slide there, Yvonne, and we are just going to talk about how can I replicate this is another question that we've received. There's a lot here on the slide. But if you have listened to any of this and you want to sort of do a spinoff of this or some sort of retention team, this is sort of how you can start. So Barb, I'll pass it over to you to go through some of this.
Thanks, Cherie. So hopefully, as you've heard everything that we've discussed today, that's your question. How can I replicate this, right? You've decided to develop a home patient retention strategy like this. I'm going to break down exactly what you need to include. So number one, understand your goals. What's your purpose? You need to know what that is. Know what you're trying to accomplish. And then understand your barriers and opportunities. We've reviewed a lot of those with you today. And I'm sure if you were to start a retention team like this one, you would have very similar barriers and opportunities that we have. Secondly, gather your team, elect a leader. Cherie is invaluable. She's our foundation. That's where it all starts for us. So you need somebody as strong as a Cherie on your team. Ensure you have a team of like-minded individuals who have a passion for all things home. And we can honestly say that with our team. Each one of us has a very strong passion for home therapies, and we always want to be there for the patients as well as the staff. Gather an IDT, as we've shown today. It's so important to not just have a nurse and a technician, but also to have that social worker and that dietitian and the biomedical technician on that team, because we all bring it together. We're like a puzzle, and each one of us fits into that puzzle. Next is placement. Decide how you're going to showcase, display, and capture your retention efforts. Microsoft Forms, like we've used, is a great option. Regular call cadence, we have to set those up. And again, as Cherie mentioned, there's a couple of us that are really good at that and do that well for our team. And then the QR codes work really well as another opportunity to get those calls scheduled. Promotion and influence. What activities are going to support your mission, right? So first and foremost, you have to have buy-in from your senior leaders. They are at the top. So it trickles down. If they find this is valuable, they are going to promote this as well. And that makes a big difference. Engage all home therapy leaders and home therapy staff. And again, that's what we do when we go out to the field and we see our home therapy program managers and we see our home therapy staff. We talk about the work that we do with the retention team so that they see the value in it as well. And then host home meetings or join team calls to discuss your project. Again, the more we talk about it, the more people know about it, the more it trickles down to the level that we need it to go to in order to get some of these retention calls scheduled. Partnerships, be aware of your policies and partner with your clinical services teams. This is very important. We have to make sure when we're giving advice on these calls that we follow our policies and procedures. Your in-center managers can be a huge help. We know that a lot of in-center managers will elect a home therapy champion within their clinic. That's another opportunity for us to get into the clinic and talk about what we do as a retention team. Next, we have to look at our people. How do we give back to the programs? How are we the thinking partners? We need to consider the profile of the program. Every single program within our region is very different and unique. And we have to take that into consideration when we have our calls. Be a cheerleader. We love being cheerleaders. And thank them for reaching out, because again, as Cherie mentioned, sometimes they thought of it as something that they had to do or something as, you know, they are to blame almost if a patient was going from home therapies to in-center, and that's not what we're here for. And then use the recognition platforms that you have to acknowledge the efforts of the team. They really appreciate being acknowledged and recognized as going forward in terms of helping to retain the patients.
Awesome, Barb. Thank you so much. I just want to say, if anybody's ever interested, we love talking about this. We can talk about it all day. So please reach out to us, get in touch with Yvonne. We're happy to talk about seriously how you can replicate this. But there's a lot of sort of homework to do before you can kick it off. I just wanted to end with, we talked a lot about home patient retention today. But as a team, we feel very strongly that if a patient is motivated to go home, then we want to try our darndest to keep them home and keep them there. We want to support our nurses and our PCTs in this endeavor. However, we are very fierce advocates of the patient's right to self-determine. We know that home may not be right for everyone, or maybe it is right for them, but they just don't want to be home anymore. That's okay. So we've learned that too. You know, it's not just about retention, it's about support for the patient, it's support for the care partner, it's support for the nurses and the PCTs, whomever. Our goal is to ensure that our teams and our patients are well informed so they can make the best decision for themselves. We know that underneath the umbrellas of PD and HHD, there are all different ways of moving forward, all different options. And that's where what we want to provide is letting everybody know what we know. I was always taught that a well-informed patient, a well-informed nurse knows what you know. That's that transformational leadership that I'm passionate about. So that with that, I'm going to turn it over to Yvonne, see if we have any questions, cross our fingers and hope we have some questions. I hope we're able to I don't know, deliver something to you guys different today.
I did have one question in the chat here asking if you guys ever include a nephrologist in your group when you're having the meetings.
When we have the calls, sometimes we've had physicians join those calls, not often, but that's a very good question because what we're offering are solutions, they're not orders. So that's one thing where we've had physicians say, hey, who are these people given orders? We're not given orders. And so what we have to do is say, hey, these are solutions, and I need you to go and present them to your physicians and to the patients and get orders for them or see what they think. 9 times out of 10, it's not a problem. So we have to just make sure that we're very careful about saying, hey, these aren't orders, these are suggestions, please present them to your physicians. But to answer your question, it's rare. It has happened where we have physicians join. We want these calls to be a safe space. And sometimes when a physician joins, it doesn't feel like you can be as open on those calls. The teams don't feel like they can be as open. But if they want to join, we're more than welcome to include them. More than happy to include them.
Can I just touch on that, Cherie, as well? We have had pre-admission patients with complex medical issues that we have had the medical office MD, attend a call with our nurses and teams to best care for that patient in home, but not the actual, they're in home jump on the call.
Does anyone else have any questions? You can put them in the chat or you can raise your hand and unmute yourself.
I have a question. Thank you for the presentation. It was very informative. Definitely, I do appreciate your quality of work, the ability to build a team that, number one, 151 years is by far phenomenal of dialysis experience. And of course, definitely want to do the best by the patient. I'm sorry if I missed this in the beginning, but based off of the retention team, what does your data analysis look like when it comes to the patient retention? How has it improved substantially? Are you still kind of teetering on about the same amount, but the quality of work is working and your team is building better with other facilities? Can you just give a little backlog on that one?
Absolutely. And anybody from the retention team, feel free to add in. But yes, we have seen improvement with our retention since we've started this. I think for 2025, we're right at, for our benchmarks anyway, we're probably at about 1.6% drop to in-center rate, which is, our goal is 1.8% or less. I'm not sure what your goals is. Last year, we were probably above 2%. So yes, our efforts have helped for sure. And you can sort of connect think Mick mentioned it, when we look at the data, who's reaching out to us relative to how they've performed. So an area who reaches out to us frequently, more likely they are exceeding their goals. Whereas an area who doesn't reach out to us, where are they on the map? The other thing too, as you mentioned, Tiffany, all of those things, yes, we've seen residual sort of positive impacts from the teams reaching out to us. So even them reaching out to us 4 or 5 times, they might not the 6th time, because they've learned other things from us in those previous calls. So it's sort of the gift that keeps on giving, so to speak. But yes, we've seen great improvement, and we're a resource. And sometimes it's not about retaining the patient; it's just acknowledging the hard work that the nurses have put in to training those patients. Sometimes we get people reaching out and they're like, "Hey, I've been training this PD patient for 2 months now. What do I do?" So sometimes it's encouraging that nurse to be like, "Hey, you might not see the progress, but we see the progress. Keep going." Or maybe change out nurses. Give yourself a little bit of a reprieve. We talk about respite often for our patients, but we also have to consider respite for ourselves. So we're those people who say, "Hey, take a break, let somebody else step in for a week or two, see if they can say something different." And so we offer well more than just prescriptions and scheduling and those sorts of things. We offer encouragement and support.
And then there's another question here. They say this is really great and they appreciate all that you've shared. Have you considered sharing with any other geographies? Are you open to requests outside of your New England region?
Yeah, we are. We are super nerds about this. I don't know. We should have put that in the presentation. Yes, we'd love to talk to people about retention and rolling this out. We wish it could be like a full-time job. Um, but yes, absolutely, we're open to it.
And then there's another question here that says, are you all volunteers? Do you all volunteer to be on this team? Do you have people like fighting to be on the team with you guys? It seems like such a great group.
I kind of strong-armed them, probably. I'm just kidding. No, this is all volunteer. Like, we do this outside of our normal day-to-day. So we have to figure out where to plug and play these calls based on the availability of most people. Like, if I know we have a PD heavy call, then I know I want Crystal on it. If we have an HHD heavy call, I want myself and Shauna, or technical Mick, or all of that sort of thing. So this is completely voluntary, but we love to do it. And you guys, we spend a lot of time. We have this group chat. You have to be a special person to be in that group chat, but we get a lot of stuff done in that chat, but we also have a lot of fun. So I don't know. What do you guys say? They're quiet now. Rosie.
I agree, Cherie. I think that, the group chat is great for us. And I love how we'll randomly think of something new, a new idea, or even, we just got off a call and our brain is just going now, and we're able to communicate and just, I don't know, that's our tank. That's our thinking tank, and we're able to shoot ideas back and forth. I love it. I think the other thing is that it keeps us also positive, and in, making sure that when we get off a call and it's, a really sad situation for a patient, it's important for us too, to make sure that we're on our best too, so we can continue delivering to the team. So I love it. I love it, Cherie.
Awesome.
There are so many kudos in the chat. I hope you guys are all seeing all these about the great work, and thank you for sharing and how inspiring you guys are. Someone asked if you'd be open to presenting to like teams and clinics if they reached out. And we can definitely, as long as Cherie's okay with it, connect anyone that sends me an email, and I can share that in the chat too.
Of course, yes. Reach out, you guys. Awesome.
See, did I miss any questions? Any other questions out there? I know Caroline was also helping monitor the chat. Let's see if I missed anything.
I think you got all of the ones that I see.
And someone asked about how to get it started in their area. And I know that your last slide or second to last slide reviewed that process as well.
We were actually talking about that. We're like, we should have made this into a job aid. So we'll get back to you on that. Yvonne will create a nice little one pager for people and you can share it out to whomever wants it.
That would be great. People are asking if you're willing to share the slides. I know that we did record this call, so we can share the recording of the call. We will have that. Lots of nice presentation. Great job, guys. All over the chat. Every time I talk with this group, I can't help but smile. They're so inspiring, and you could just feel the passion.
I'm lucky. We're all lucky to have each other. It's been awesome. Even when we're on PTO, we're reaching out to each other. It's sick.
And all hours of the day too,
Yes.
right, Sheree?
Yes. Yes. Yvonne, I just want to thank you for reaching out to us and having us present here. It's been a pleasure. So thank you for all with your questions and your kudos in the chat. Thank you all so much. And thank you to the team, you guys.
We really appreciate your whole team coming on board. This was great. And I know a lot of people are leaving inspired and have some great ideas. And so thank you so much. Someone put your team, your mission should be cloned. I love it.
I agree.
Well,
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all so much. We appreciate your time. Everyone have a good day.
Bye.
Thank you.